My spouse opened his eyes and I responded, "Come in, oh wait a minute." I looked where he looked and saw a female standing in a pool of water. She was dressed in light attire and sandals despite the cold. The girl said, "Would you please give me something to eat?" She came over to us and held out a single $1 in her quivering fingers. My spouse and I looked at each other. Initially, we dressed the girl differently and gave her a vegetable-rich soup. We were relieved to see her joyfully gorging on the soup and blowing on it to chill it down. Lila, the girl's name, lived with her mother, Isla. Lila clarified that her mother didn't appear to be able to come home very frequently because she was so busy at work. Lila's safety became a concern for us, so we invited her to see us at any time. Lila started coming to our house once a week, on Sundays at approximately 2 p.m. Lila burst in one day, her backpack still on. My husband and I did what she said and followed her home. "I brought them, Mom," Lila said. We peered into the room warily. This is awful, we thought, as we noticed a disorganized entryway that was tough to navigate due to several enormous trash bags strewn around. My spouse and I looked at each other anxiously. A woman exited from inside and leaned against the wall after some time. We reasoned, she must be Isla, Lila's mother. "Are you the mother of Lila?" I inquired. "Yes, huh?" was her response. "My name is Elena. My spouse Marcus and I own and operate a restaurant called Rose. Although my husband's parents began it initially, we took it over 10 years ago. Thankfully, the classic tastes have become extremely popular, and we are crowded with loyal clients every day." "I'll bring it right away," Elena apologized, her voice startling her. I gave him a quick smile. "Go slow," he remarked softly. His speech and look gave me hope. I inhaled deeply and grinned as I delivered the hot beef stew to the eagerly awaiting patrons. My spouse and I had no intention of taking over the restaurant at first. I was a hospital dietitian, and he was an ordinary office worker. Our daughter had a big say in our choice to buy the restaurant. My in-laws, who are 65 years old, intended to shut down the eatery. The patrons pleaded with them to keep it open, though. They trusted us with the restaurant and acknowledged our sentiments as well. Our wishes were for Aurelia, our daughter. She was born early, weighing just 1,800 grams at birth, when I was 28 years old. I wished she would become as vibrant as a rose, illuminating the world around her and attracting affection from everybody, just like our restaurant. My spouse yearned for our child, who valiantly struggled to survive within the incubator. Aurelia's time in the hospital was becoming longer. Despite growing slowly but gradually, her body remained fragile, and she frequently entered and exited the hospital. With every hospital visit, we were on edge all the time. Aurelia was usually very joyful, maybe because she sensed our emotions. She would suggest, "Let's have a party at Grandpa's restaurant when I get discharged." Aurelia adored her grandmother's cheesecake and her grandfather's omelet. She loved their restaurant and would love to host events there for any kind of gathering. Grandma's birthday was today. We even joined the customers in celebrating the birthdays of my parents-in-law. Aurelia, who always made others smile, was meant to become a great woman who would always be by our side. The winter Aurelia was in her 3rd grade year was a turning point in the situation. Aurelia's health had much improved by the time she entered the 3rd grade, making it possible for her to go to primary school and take part in the sports festival for the first time. Her buddies would occasionally visit to play after school. We were happy that Aurelia could now live a regular life, but then we got a phone informing us that she had passed out at school. Aurelia was being brought to the hospital, and when we arrived, we discovered that she was in the intensive care unit, hooked up to a lot of tubes. With anxiety, my spouse remarked, "She was fine this morning. Will Aurelia be all right?" My spouse and I were both so terrified that we were unable to endure without the assistance of medical professionals. Aurelia's congenital kidney issue had gotten worse, and we were told by the physicians that her situation was grave. Aurelia apologized for worrying you, even though it was obvious she wasn't feeling well. She tried to make us laugh. Don't worry, I'll be okay shortly. A discharge party must be held as soon as feasible. But the sickness ate her up bit by bit. Aurelia lost dead 2 weeks after being admitted to the hospital. Aurelia eagerly anticipated hosting parties at her grandfather's store, Rose, till the very end. My spouse and I were strongly against the store closing because it was something she loved dearly. This location holds so many memories of Aurelia, and we wanted to protect it. My parents-in-law gave us the flavor essence of the shop throughout the course of the following few years. They are the reason Rose is still a cherished location for everybody. A client ordered an omelet saying, "Please have mine." The 3 doors down florist handed us a little arrangement and said, "Oh, Elena, please display this in the shop. Aurelia's anniversary is today." Some of the regulars still recall Aurelia's kind actions. Although it gives me comfort to know that she is remembered, I still harbor regrets. If only my child had been healthier when I gave birth. I was crying as I looked at the florist's flowers inside the locked store. I cry every now and again when I think back on Aurelia. Whenever I felt low, my spouse gave me a little stroke on the back to cheer me up. "Nobody is at fault," he declared. Even after 23 years, Aurelia is still remembered by those who are not related to us. I'm glad about that, presumably because of this store. The shop is in good condition overall, but at 50 years old, it still shows its age. It's already 59 years old. How much longer can we defend this location that Aurelia cherished? "Elena, what is the issue?" my spouse inquired. I hesitantly said, "Oh, it's nothing," feeling uneasy about the passing of time, but not wanting to concern my husband anymore. A day of intense rain and few clients meant that the shop was abnormally empty. The rain outside reverberated loudly. My husband remarked sweetly, "Since there aren't many customers today, Elena, you can take a break in the back," while I began tidying up. "I appreciate it, but I'd rather work with my hands," I said in response. At that moment, the store's door opened. "Pardon me," a voice said. "Hello, just a moment, please." My husband's eyes grew wide as he peered forward and saw a girl standing in the freezing cold, soaking from head to toe, wearing sandals. "Please give it a minute," I said. "I'm going to get a towel now." I ran to get a bath towel from the room at the rear. It had to be chilly. As I walked up to her, I murmured, "You'll be okay now." "Would you please give me something to eat?" the girl said, holding out a single $1 in her shaky palm. My spouse and I looked at each other. "Elena, is there anything in our closet that could fit her?" he inquired. "Oh, I believe Aurelia is upstairs in her pajamas. Come on, let's get you out of these damp garments so you won't get sick." I took the soaked girl upstairs and wrapped her in a bath towel. My parents-in-law used to reside on the 2nd floor of the business until 3 years ago. However, it is presently unoccupied. Aurelia loved her grandparents so much that she kept her pajamas with them so she could visit them whenever she wanted. Her pajamas had been carefully stored by them the entire time. I answered, "Oh, it fits perfectly." "We apologize. The pattern may be a little out of date." Although I was a little concerned that she would not appreciate the archaic design that dates back 23 years, the girl silently thanked us and appeared to be quite delighted wearing the pajamas. Upon returning downstairs, my spouse's eyes sprang startled upon noticing the female dressed in Aurelia's pajamas. "It fits you," he remarked. "Oh, just give it a minute." He answered joyfully, "I'll make something to warm you up," and he began chopping onions. Every now and again, my husband would give her kind glances, maybe sensing a connection between Aurelia and the girl. After a while, he delivered a substantial soup and warned, "Be careful, it's hot." "Oh my goodness, it looks so good," the girl said, her face beaming. We smiled too, watching her joyfully drink the soup and breath on it. "I'm satisfied." The girl finished her meal and clasped her hands nicely, saying, "Thank you for the meal." "Hey, what's your name?" I inquired. "I'm Lila," she answered. Aurelia's speech was similar to Lila's. After more investigation, it was discovered that Lila was 8 years old. the same age Aurelia was when she died. Aurelia's pajamas therefore fit her well. Aurelia was very tiny, I realized, causing me to cry uncontrollably. Simultaneously, I couldn't help but wonder why the tiny youngster had gone to our house by themselves in the pouring rain. "May we inquire about your house?" With timidity, I asked Lila. Lila nodded and started talking. She shares a single home with her mother, Isla. Her mom doesn't appear to be able to visit her house very frequently because she is so busy at work. "What is your mother's occupation?" I asked. "Making bento boxes and cleaning," Lila answered. Her mother doesn't appear to have a regular work. "Does she usually prepare your dinner?" I inquired. Lila remarked, "Usually she leaves me noodles or sandwiches. However, nothing was present today. I figured I'd get something to eat for $1 since I assume Mom was pretty busy. However, the rain was too heavy. Unable to make it to the grocery store, I stumbled onto your store and entered as though directed." Lila's remarks made it clear how much she loved her mother. Lila's mother was clearly parenting her daughter as a single mother, despite the fact that I had never met her. It's likely that this mother and daughter have no one else to turn to. How ought we to proceed? My spouse and I went into a long period of quiet. Lila got to her feet, sensing our unease. "Today, thank you so much," she remarked. "The soup was excellent and helped me feel better." Lila extended $1 and apologized, saying, "I know it's not enough, but I'm sorry." My spouse responded, "It's okay, you don't need to pay." Lila appeared uncomfortable, even a bit, if she didn't pay, but we declined to accept the money. "All right, I'll take the $1. "With gratitude," Lila remarked. "Would you want to join us for dinner again, if you would?" My hubby made the proposition. "Actually? At a restaurant. Are you eating without paying?" Glancing down, Lila muttered. Lila, who was 8 years old, attempted to keep her manners, never being down about her circumstances. Her poised manner alarmed me. At 8 years old, our daughter departed from us. She went by Aurelia. She had some of your features. Lila looked up as she listened to my narrative. I responded, "Watching you makes me happy because it reminds me of Aurelia." "So, would you return to our home?" I said. "We'd love to chat with you further." She eventually smiled back at me as our eyes connected, and I gave her a kind grin. "The next time you visit, you can return the umbrella. On your way home, be careful." Lila was led out as the rain started to stop. She waved her hand each time she glanced back. I said, "Pardon me." Lila began visiting our home on Sundays, a little after 2 p.m., from that point on. She inquired, "What dish is this?" "That's gratin. I adore gratin. I think my cheeks are falling off." When Lila tasted her first gratin, she was ecstatic. I made careful to feed Lila well-balanced meals, making the most of my expertise as a qualified dietitian. Lila's complexion started to become better as a result. She would remark, "Thank you, Elena and Marcus," when her supper was done. She would usually trail a few pennies. "That's all right." I would remark to my spouse, "We're just using up leftover ingredients." Lila would consistently leave pennies on the table, in spite of our repeated reassurance that she didn't have to pay. She is such an honorable and respectable young lady. Sometimes I was proud of her for it, and other times, as I watched her leap for glee after she finished her dessert of cheesecake, I couldn't help but be glad that she was only 8 years old. Lila began talking to us about school progressively, and then she remarked, "In PE, we did backflips, but I couldn't do it at all. Do you want to rehearse later at the park?" "Indeed." Lila's eyes glistened. "Now that I think about it, Aurelia had trouble doing backflips too," I said. "She may accomplish it one day, but we used to practice at the park during the shop's break." I answered, "I believe she mentioned learning from a friend." As we spoke with Lila, old memories came flooding back. We sensed Aurelia's presence in her more and more. All we wanted for Lila was happiness, but it appeared like her mother wasn't returning home too often. Leaving an 8-year-old alone, regardless of how busy she is at work, Isn't it worrying? I stated. In response, my husband said, We don't even know what kind of work she does, but it's not right to pry into her family's affairs, especially with Lila. Lila could only come home on Sundays, so we had to spend anxious, sleepless days keeping an eye on her. One day at noon, Lila burst into the store looking quite upset, even though it was a work day and lunch was about to finish. "Ermi, what's wrong?" I inquired. Lila remarked, "Coming back from school," her breathing laboring and her backpack still on. She shook her head and whispered, "Mom. Mom." "Lila, hold on," my husband urged, extending a glass of water to her. I supported Lila in taking a few deep breaths to help her relax and sip water gradually. "What transpired with your mother?" I inquired. Lila, on the point of tears, stated, "My mom, she can't stop coughing and it's really bad." "To call someone," she said. I gave Lila a soft embrace since it seemed like she was about to cry. "All okay, no worries. Would you be able to direct us to your home, Lila?" I inquired. My spouse glanced at the time and started removing his apron as soon as I gave him the signal. "I will also attend," he said. "Lunchtime is over and the customers have just left," before putting the close sign on the door. We raced to Lila's house, following her. Lila showed us to a run-down 2-story flat. Lila entered room 101's door without thinking twice. Lila shouted out, "Mom, I brought them." We peered warily into the room. We thought, this is awful. There was a jumbled entry in front of us, with many enormous trash bags scattered around, making it impossible to walk. We exchanged anxious glances, brows furrowed, between my spouse and me. After some while, a woman came out and stumbled out, resting against the wall. She was probably Isla, Lila's mother. Isla apologized, coughing. I backed away from the coughing woman as I reached out to stroke her back. Even for an amateur, her condition appeared terrible, as her body felt feverish. "Do you know Lila's mother?" I inquired. "Yes, I apologize. I have a cold." Isla coughed, she said. "Even now, your condition appears perilous." My spouse said, "I'll call for an ambulance," and he made the quick call. "What is your insurance card?" "It's located in the upper drawer of the dresser," Isla said. I forced my way through the trash bags and into the room. The inside was just as unsettling. Used dishes were piling up in the sink. Beside the bed, an enormous pile of laundry accumulated, and empty lunchboxes and bottles were arranged on the desk. Lila picked assiduously at the trash in the bags. "Lila, your mom is going to the hospital soon," I stated, opening the dresser's top drawer to retrieve the insurance card as directed. When the ambulance quickly came, Isla was taken from the home by the paramedics. "I'll accompany her," I declared. "That's a wise decision. Remain with Lila." "I'll oversee the store," my spouse declared. I chose to accompany Lila to the hospital and went with her into the ambulance. According to the test findings, Isla had to spend around a week in the hospital after contracting pneumonia as a result of a bad cold. Isla's cough went away because of the medicine, and she slept soundly while wheezing lightly. It must have taken her a long time to fall asleep. "Don't worry, Lila. Mom will be well taken care of by the doctor. Are you interested in visiting Auntie's place till Mom gets released?" I asked Lila, who was observing her mother with anxiety. "Huh, is that all right?" Lila asked. "Naturally. If you're here, I'm sure Mom will feel more comfortable taking a nap." I told her that she would soon recover. Lila squeezed my hand and murmured, "Thank you." She must have been really nervous. "Lila, you may always seek for help when you're having problems, like you are now. People in your vicinity will assist you. Never give up," I told her. Lila firmly squeezed my palm again and replied, "Yeah." Since the next day was our day off from the business, my spouse and I brought Lila to see Isla. Isla had woken up by then. Lila hurried excitedly to her. "Lila, I apologize for the inconvenience I caused you," Isla replied, giving Lila a tender hug. Then she turned to face us, her head lowered as she kneeled on the bed. With tears in her voice, Isla added, "Even though we're not family, thank you so much for Lila and for everything." I told her, "Isla, look up and remember, even though we're not family, you can rely on us." Isla's eyes brightened with tears when she heard what I said. Lila remarked, "Mom, there's a parrot at Elena's house, and it said, 'I love you.'" Watching Lila joyfully chat about our bird, Isla smiled kindly. "May I inquire about Isla's living situation?" I inquired. "Yes," Isla replied. "I'm a mother by myself. My age is 31. When I became pregnant with Lila at the age of 23, I didn't register with the man who would later become her father. He and I recently opened a restaurant with a buddy. Once the restaurant was back on track, he vowed we would tie the knot. I assumed he was thinking about sparing the youngster from debt. However, he abruptly vanished and stole a sizable quantity of money from the restaurant a year later, when we were paying off the loan as scheduled and had a respectable number of patrons. My companion and I were both taken aback. He had unplugged his phone. I didn't know anything about his family because he claimed to have grown up in foster care without parents. In addition, my friend left the restaurant after saying, "I can't take it anymore," leaving me to run it by myself. Somehow, I had to pay the loan back. Lila was on my back as I stood at the store, but I ultimately had to close it since I was unable to manage it on my own. After that, I had to work really hard to pay back the loan, but I was just a high school graduate and had a young child. No place would take me on as a regular employee. I've also worked day labor jobs. All I had to do was work whenever I had free time. I now work as a temporary employee, working part-time at a convenience store at night and cleaning during the day. I go back to work after spending a little time with Lila in the evening. Either early in the morning, before Lila wakes up, or after Lila departs for the day, I go back home. Lila informed me about your thoughtfulness toward us. Many thanks for it. I wanted to thank you, but I was too scared to look myself in the eye. I really believed that I would receive criticism for not providing adequate care for my child. It's true that I failed to provide Lila with the required attention and eventually gave in. Isla trembled as she continued, "I'm a failure as a parent." Lila was working hard on her schoolwork by the bed. I was surprised to see my name, Lila, inscribed there. "You were 31, right, Isla?" I inquired. "Yes," Isla answered. "Do you recall a girl from 3rd grade by the name of Aurelia?" I went on. "She used to tie her hair in 2 knots." Isla thought for a bit before abruptly raising her head. "Aurelia? I recall. Elena, are you Aurelia's parents?" "I'm confused," she inquired. With excitement, I nodded and grasped Isla's hand. I've always thought Lila and Aurelia were similar in some manner, but I never thought... "Are you Isla, the friend of Aurelia?" I inquired. Aurelia had mentioned Isla's name a lot. Isla was a talented athlete that Aurelia respected for her dependability and energy. Isla had followed groups of boisterous males about, and had assisted Aurelia in practicing cartwheels during lunch breaks so that Aurelia might become proficient at them. Aurelia frequently admired Isla's dependability and dynamism. Isla shook her head at my talk. "Oh no, I really was the one who found Aurelia admirable." Isla remarked, "She was so genuine that she could easily win anyone over." "Ah, I remember how instructors would often reprimand me for not being girly enough." With a hint of resentment in her voice, Isla said, "Some children even distance themselves, warning not to play with the one scolded by teachers." However, Aurelia claimed to admire Isla. "Because you're gentler and stronger than anyone, I really like you. My goal is to resemble her." Isla said, "Her words saved me." All Aurelia had told me about Isla was that she was almost a hero. I had no idea that they had such a conversation in which they shared experiences and knowledge while also going through a range of emotions. Aurelia made the most of every day. We were thrilled to find this new aspect of Aurelia. Aurelia up in heaven must be disappointed with me for being this way. I must perform better. My husband, who had been silent up until that point, responded to Isla's remarks with tact at that very time. "You're accurate. This might lead to Aurelia being dissatisfied. Marcus, come on, he murmured. I didn't understand why he would scowl at my husband and say such things to Aurelia, who was weak from sickness. My husband ignored me and turned to face Isla while he talked. I believe Aurelia would be dissatisfied if you continued to try to manage things on your own going forward. He remarked, Isla, you're trying your hardest, working so hard by yourself, and carrying debts for Lila's sake. When Isla heard my husband's comments, she started crying. He gave her a handkerchief and went on. But remember, it's acceptable to ask for assistance when you're in need, because someone will undoubtedly come to your rescue. Perhaps Isla found it admirable in Aurelia. Isla continued to nod while sobbing uncontrollably. Aurelia was well aware of her limits, and adept at asking for assistance from others, because she had been weak from infancy and depended heavily on others around her. I could understand Isla's admiration for Aurelia. She had always done everything by herself. Elena taught me that I may also ask for aid, Mom. It's unwise to put up with everything. While Isla sobbed, Lila gave her a gentle head stroke. You're accurate. Isla gave Lila a soft stroke on the head in return and said, It's not good to endure. I don't think continuing to live like this is a good idea, but becoming a full-time employee is difficult for me, she remarked, glancing at us. Could you please assist me? Isla's sincere look made me feel the intense urge to assist this mother and daughter once more. Isla, you were a restaurant owner once, right? Do you want to cook? I inquired. Isla said, Yes, I do like to see the happy faces of customers when they're full. My spouse glanced at me and nodded. We are restaurant owners. He put forth the idea. How about living and working here with us? The quick proposal took Isla by surprise to the point that she was unable to speak. What does it mean to live here? She inquired. Lila, do you recall the first time you came over here and changed into the upstairs? Since no one was living there at the time, I reasoned. Maybe you and Mom could live there and Mom could work at our restaurant. It's amazing that I can see you whenever you work, Mom. Lila was bouncing up and down with joy. Is everything really all right? Although it is a little dated, we have been cleaning it frequently, so I believe it is still livable. Although the income isn't very big, you will receive day and night meals in addition to not having to pay rent. That ought to cover a respectable livelihood, my husband said with a nice grin to Isla. Many thanks for it. Thank you so much for everything, Isla remarked, repeatedly bending her head. You might politely request assistance. Aurelia is undoubtedly content in paradise, I remarked. Yes, Isla said, grinning and raising her tear-streaked face. Isla went upstairs to the store and was safely discharged from the hospital a week later. Hopefully you'll adjust to work gradually. Family time comes first here, thus we don't work overtime. Please let us know if you run into any difficulties. That is our policy at work, my spouse remarked. Yes, I really appreciate it, Isla happily answered. Her background in the food and beverage sector contributed to her culinary expertise. She picked up the work fast and was a great addition. Regular customers expressed their happiness at the birth of a successor, saying, You're lucky to have such a capable successor. I answered, I'd be happy if that's how it works out, but Isla gets to make the final decision. If it's all right with you, I'll put in even more effort. Isla firmly said, I want to pay you all back for your kindness in this shop. We both smiled at her response, my husband and I. I've arrived home. I made a call. We said, Welcome back, Lila, each day. As a couple, Isla and I welcomed Lila home from school. Lila confided in us that she gets the most joy out of hearing welcome back. We now understand how much delight it offers to spend time as a family. The store is now considerably livelier as a result of Isla and Lila. Could you please bring some water, Lila? I inquired. Yes, Lila answered. Lila also contributes. She is the reason that the loneliness I had following Aurelia's death is no longer overwhelming me. I think it's because of her that I can genuinely treasure this location, which is full with Aurelia memories. Ah, how lovely the weather is. Perhaps I ought to hang the clothes outside on a mild day, I considered. Shining with sunlight, the house phone rang. Lila sent it. Elena, would you be able to visit the business at 11? Let's go to the park and practice cartwheels. Yes, without a doubt. I answered, see you later. As a couple, Lila has become rather connected to us. Lila is already considered our real grandchild. I went to the store by myself because my spouse needed to perform some errands in the morning. When I got there, I saw a sign on the door that said, in Lila's handwriting, "Party today." I quietly pulled open the door. Happy birthday, Elena! There was a roar of applause when Lila spoke. Lila, Isla, and my husband were all standing inside the shop grinning. The tables were loaded with delectable food, and the inside was decked out with balloons and decorations. Tears filled my eyes. I had never had my birthday celebrated in such a way. Elena, I appreciate your unwavering kindness toward Mom and me. We ask that you treat us with kindness always and forever. Lila presented me a bunch of pink flowers and read aloud from a note. It came from both Isla and her. Little blooms clustered together, bringing cheery pink roses to the surrounding area. Lila claims that we have assisted her, but Lila and Isla have also greatly assisted us. Lila, I appreciate your faith in me. Thank you for visiting our house, Lila and Isla. We appreciate your unwavering support, Marcus. I thanked each of them, saying, and Miss Aurelia, thank you for bringing us together with Isla. Enjoy it while it's still warm. My spouse took the lead in the toast, appearing a little shy. It makes me so happy to see everyone smiling. Here at this Rose, we've made brand new, priceless